From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your MTN Noon News on this Tuesday. I'm Augusta McDonnell. Let's get right to our top story. A blast of winter weather rocked the state this weekend, closing schools and sending snowplows into action. For the latest on our conditions statewide, we've got meteorologist Miller Robson.
Well, Augusta, some of us are still bearing the brunt of that winter storm in terms of the snow, but all of us feeling the brunt of that cold Arctic air that's coming in. You can see the temperatures out there. Some of us single digits below zero or just single digits above zero. Some of our warmer spots would be on the eastern side of this, or western rather. We've got 15 degrees there in Missoula, 11 in Butte, but the feels like temperatures out there. Some of us in the single digits to double digits with the feels like temperatures, the wind chill out there. So very, very cold. And of course, I called this the weather map gumbo. There's all kinds of things going on there, from winter storm warnings to winter storm watches, cold weather advisory, also a high wind watch. We'll break this all down with the main forecast coming up here in just a few minutes.
From below zero temperatures to several feet of snow in the mountains, winter delivered hazardous conditions to much of Montana to start the week, as we've been talking about. Most schools across the region closed Monday, but the weather kept some businesses very busy. From snow removal companies to plumbers to auto body shops, phones were ringing off the hook because of problems posed by the storm. MTN's Marcus Kokova shows us a couple of downtown Billings businesses who actually welcomed the Monday snow.
It's snowing pretty heavily in downtown Billings, and so much so that you can pretty much walk in the middle of the street without anybody driving by. It's keeping a lot of people inside, and for downtown businesses, that's not exactly ideal.
Yes, everybody's calling it a snow day, except, well, us small businesses, we're still here.
Snow's at the heart of downtown's Valentine's giveaway, a collaboration of 30 local businesses meant to draw crowds despite the cold.
The giveaway itself is not an online giveaway, a little different than we're all used to, right?
This way they have to come downtown, maybe do a little bit of shopping, and look around and see what downtown has to offer.
Jody Brockle, who spearheaded the in-person only raffle, says when the snow piles up, business chills to a halt. But just down the street,
it's warm, it's cozy, everybody wants to hunker down with their wool.
The Yarn Bar says it sees more customers in days of snow.
If you're working on a blanket and it's snowing, there's probably nothing better in life than sitting and having something warm on your lap while you're making it.
Whether you go out or stay in, I think we can all agree. I hate snow for one reason, and it's driving.
We have seen a lot of major accidents, of course, with this kind of weather too, but yeah, I mean, sliding through intersections, we see a lot of that this time of year.
Yarn Bar isn't the only place with more traffic. And at Trackside Auto Body, staff get some pretty spiffy snow attire when things get busy.
So essentially this suit is what protects you from all the paint. You know, you don't want that getting on your skin.
Despite the driving difficulty, they say Montana's beauty outshines its complications, something folks are fond of.
The great part about Montana is you actually get to enjoy all four of the seasons. And I think the people that are in Montana, they want to see all four seasons.
Marcus Kokova, MTN News.
Marcus, thank you. And while most of Montana's schools are back open today, a number of them still felt the impact of this last blast of weather. Let's take a look. Columbus schools started class an hour earlier this morning, and over in Livingston today, no morning buses ran, but Livingston Public Schools did start at their usual time. Reed Point schools, Hamilton and Alberton schools also remained closed today. Drummond had a 2-hour delay. We'll continue to bring you more closures and delays as we learn about them both on air and online. In today's leading look, a Bozeman man is behind bars, accused of stabbing another man to death. 24-year-old Thomas Wegley appeared in Gallatin County Justice Court Monday in a wheelchair with a bruised eye following a stabbing on Saturday morning that left one man dead and a second man injured. According to court documents, witnesses say Wegley stabbed two men behind the RSVP Hotel in Midtown Bozeman. One man, 38-year-old Richard Sherman, died from his wounds. The other victim was taken to Bozeman Health Deaconess Hospital. Court documents show the suspect has a lengthy criminal history that began when he was just 13. Wegley's bail was set at $1 million. We'll continue to follow that story. And in Billings today, police say a person is in custody after a shooting in a residential neighborhood early this morning. It happened outside a home shortly after 5 a.m. Police say a suspect was barricaded and actively shooting outside a residence on Jerry Lane. That's up by the state park. That incident caused a closure of Jerry and Jackie Lanes, while schools in the area were not affected. Around 7:30, police said the suspect was arrested without incident and that area open again with no danger to the public. And in Helena at the Montana State Legislature, the Senate Ethics Committee met yesterday to lay out plans for their investigation into a former state Senate president. The committee, made up of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, is tasked with looking into Republican Senator Jason Ellsworth's handling of a state contract. Last month, Ellsworth signed off on a contract for reviewing outcomes from judicial reform legislation. A legislative auditor's report says it did not go through proper procedures. The committee has now begun requesting witnesses and documents with the plan of holding a 3-day hearing next week. Those findings could then be revealed the following week. President Trump's tariffs against Mexico and Canada have been put on hold until March 4th. On Monday, the president spoke with the leaders of both Mexico and Canada, both agreeing to work together with the U.S. on border security. Before the pause, a Butte distiller who uses Montana grains to create a variety of whiskey products says President Trump's tariffs impacted his ability to enter the Canadian market as Canada suspended sales of U.S.-made booze. MTN's Megan Thompson meets with the owner of Headframe Spirits to get a sense of the ripple effect of this tariff situation.
A local businessman here in Butte says the tariffs imposed on Canada are impacting his ability to enter a new market for whiskey sales.
We have about 10,000 barrels on site right now. We're shooting for this year another 3,000 and every year after this to make 3,000 barrels every year. So it's a couple swimming pools of whiskey that we make up here.
John McKee is the owner of Headframe Spirits, a distillery that opened in 2012. Over the years, Headframe Spirits has expanded from a tasting room serving local customers to a manufacturing business that serves customers across the state and nation.
We're a big market share in the Pacific Northwest. And it turns out Chicago, we're really big in Chicago.
Not counting the bootleggers in the early 1900s, Headframe Spirits is the first legal distillery in Montana and one of 4,000 distilleries nationwide. John says planning for business growth depends on future market projections because his product must age before it reaches the customer.
One of the things you're doing when you're making whiskey at this scale is you're sort of always looking ahead about 3 to 4 to 5 years.
On February 1st, President Trump signed off on 25% tariffs to be imposed on Canada and Mexico. Several Canadian provinces responded by yanking American-made booze from their shelves. As of February 3rd, implementation of the tariffs is on hold pending negotiations, but it is unclear whether American-made alcohol will return to the Canadian market.
You know, who knows what the end looks like, but right now we've had to pause our plans to move into Canada until we can just let the dust settle and see what comes.
In the meantime, John and his 30 employees will continue to make whiskey while they search for new markets for their Montana-made product.
Who knows what's going to happen? And that's a real hard way to do business. But when no one knows what's going on or it can change overnight at a whim, that makes it really difficult to do good business, and it makes it real difficult to take care of your people.
In Butte, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
Canada, Mexico, and China are among Montana's biggest trade partners. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Montana exported more than $1.1 billion worth of goods and services to Canada in 2023 and was the Treasury State's #1 trading partner, making up 45% of international exports. Mexico and China combined imported more than $400 million worth of Montana goods, with agricultural goods being Montana's most valuable commodity. That trade goes both ways. 2021 data from the state shows imports from international partners totaling more than $6.5 billion, including $5.9 billion in goods from Canada alone. And at the Montana legislature, the Senate has endorsed a bill that could create penalties for providing transgender medical treatment to someone under the age of 16. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian was there for a debate yesterday and has the latest.
Last legislative session, Montana lawmakers passed a law currently held up in court that prohibits gender-affirming procedures for transgender youth. On Monday, the Senate endorsed a bill that would define providing those procedures to children under the age of 16 as criminal child endangerment. Senators gave initial approval to Senate Bill 164, sponsored by Republican Senator John Fuller of Kalispell, on a 30-20 vote. If the bill becomes law, someone convicted of providing a hormonal or surgical treatment could face 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Supporters said it was needed to protect children from long-term health consequences.
I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody, let alone children. I believe it is our obligation to protect Montana's children from these circumstances.
Opponents of the bill said it was overreaching and could lead to parents and healthcare providers facing charges.
It's one thing to think that supporting a child's transition is the wrong choice. We can all have our opinions, that is fine. However, protecting freedom means the freedom the parents who love their children and want to help them have their freedom to choose.
They're just trying to get help for their children. And if they cannot trust the help, if they cannot find the help, if they think that they're going to be penalized by trying to find this help, they're not going to seek the help.
Fuller also sponsored Senate Bill 99, the 2023 bill on gender-affirming procedures. He said he believed this bill would ultimately be upheld as constitutional.
I would offer to you that the state does have a compelling interest, a very compelling interest.
The bill will need to pass a final vote in the Senate before it moves over to the House. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.